What's going on, you 3D modeling beasts? This is jlmussi, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing the top hard surface modeling mistakes that 3D artists make when it comes to vehicle modeling. And this is pretty much irrelevant of whatever 3D software you're using, whether it's Maya, Blender, Modo, 3D Max, etc. I had an artist reach out to me, and he was struggling with his vehicle modeling, and I decided to do this video not only to help him out, but to help any of you guys out if you're struggling with your hard surface vehicle modeling. This is a vehicle that I created a couple years back, and I will honestly say this process gets easier every time you create a new model. Upon opening his model, I did notice some patterns, and these patterns of issues or mistakes, even though you might be creating a different model than the Lamborghini I'm going to demo, is you actually might still benefit from watching the video, because cars have similar anatomy, and artists, especially beginning to create car models, they actually fall into the same pattern of creating similar mistakes. And that's one thing that I noticed. And if you think about it, it actually makes sense, because cars actually have similar anatomy, right? And anatomy might be a weird name or phrase to use for a vehicle, but they all have similar components, like the hood, the headlights, the windshield, the doors, the tires, and the rims, right? And before we start, make sure to smash that subscribe button and enable notifications. Also, make sure to download my hard surface modeling cheat sheets, which is a free guide and a great companion piece to all my videos. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and open up his file, and we'll go ahead and get on with the video. My man Ichiro, all the way from Amsterdam, was struggling with this Lamborghini Hurricane. I hope I'm saying it right. I don't own one yet, so I don't know if it's Hurricane or Hurricane. So he messaged me, want to know if I could help him out. I told him, sure, just send the model over. So what I'm going to do is just focus on this hood. And he just wants it to subdivide smoothly. If we go here, and the first thing that I'll do is assign a blend to this and turn off a wireframe unshaded. And overall, the model's coming along fine, but he does have some issues here with the hood as far as it going into 3 mode, whether he's using a sub D or just going to be applying a smooth. Some of this topology could be routed a little bit better. Also, the panel lines here need to be worked out. So I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate of this. So I'll hold down Shift here, just clone it over. And then what I'll do with this one is basically just delete half of it. And I'll delete half of the windshield as well. And these parts also. And then I'll just go ahead and create an instance on this. So I'll shift right click, mirror, options. Set this to world, and then take cut geometry off and set this to instance, hit mirror, and I'll do the same thing with the windshield. So I'll shift right click, mirror, options, and I'll hit mirror, and there we go. So with my multi-cut tool here, I'm just going to go ahead and cut across here. And then we could just take these edges and delete them. I'm also going to go ahead and clean this up here. One thing about the windshields is that you really don't need to follow the topology of the car precisely. So as long as you have your main verts here, you don't need to be as dense as the body of your vehicle. So some of these could actually be deleted and cleaned up quite a bit. I'm going to take this edge here and do Control Delete, and then here I'm just going to continue that this way. Continue that this way. And continue this way right here. What you could also do is enable edge slide, and it'll pretty much respect these edges. So that's a good way of sliding topology. So whether you just create a new cut or you go ahead and slide the components, you ultimately get a similar effect. I'm going to delete this here. I'm going to take this edge here, delete it. And I want to straighten this edge up, so I'll select this range. I'll get the multi-cut here, and I'll just recreate that cut. And then I could just take this vert here, and then with edge slide, just taper that off a little bit. What I can do here is just turn edge slide off, and we could always vert snap to this corner if we needed it to be precise there. And I would probably do the same thing with all these. It's just go in here and vert snap. Also, another recommendation is I would highly recommend that you assign a blend to your vehicle if you are working on a vehicle. That way you are getting a more specular surface when you're working, and when you turn this wireframe unshaded off, any issues will become more apparent. So this is looking fine when we go into subd mode. And if you're getting these gaps here in the corners, what you could do is just insert an edge loop just to hold these edges a little bit better. And now when you go in 3 mode, you're not going to have any of those corners being exposed, right? So you're just creasing those up. So let's go ahead and move here, which is pretty much the meat and potatoes of his issues, is the hood. It's kind of what he was inquiring about initially. What I'll go ahead and do is this panel line here, this is the hood, right? This is a crease here, and this is a crease here. So what I'm going to do here is just actually delete some of these edges. When you're cleaning up edge flow like this, sometimes it's easier just to be able to step back and reduce some of your topology. So we're going to delete all these edges here, and I'm also going to delete these. And what you could also do is just select all these and merge them down. And I can go in here and delete this edge. And I'm also going to delete this edge here. So when I'm creating the car, what I try to focus on, and the reason I pretty much just killed all those panel lines, is I try to focus on the flow of the vehicle first before introducing more details, right? And that's exactly what those panel lines are. But the problem is, if your edge flow is not pretty much almost finalized, at least the main components of it, adding those panel lines early on can basically just complicate your workflow, add more geometry, and really cause more cleanup along the way. So I like to take that step back, fix the overall edge flow of the body of the car, and then towards the final part of modeling the pieces, I like to reintroduce those panel lines via a bevel, right? So the first thing that I'm looking at here, I really don't like this termination here. So we want to have this flow this way. And I don't like how this is routed here on this panel above the headlight. So I'm going to reroute that as well. All right. So with the multi-cut, I'll get this out. And what we could do is just start cutting in here. What I want to do is actually just have a loop that kind of supports this edge here. I don't like having these spikes here in the flow. So what I like to do is with edge slide, just kind of even them out. Even though they might not cause pinching, I like to have just a nice flow to my wires here. So now that we have this, what I'm going to do is route this way. So this quads out. And let's go back in here and put this guy back to 1 mode. And I'll delete this. And I'm just going to edge slide this over here. And edge slide is just a real good way of just respecting these border edges. What I'm going to do is just add another loop here. And then connect this. And now what we could do is just give this another loop and go this way with it. So for that, I'm going to take this edge and just slide it on down with edge slide. And that's kind of the beauty about edge slide. It'll pretty much respect what you have so far. And then now with the multi-cut, You see how I'm dropping a loop here, but it's going here. What you can do is just add a stopper, just add a little vert, and then you can do control middle mouse click, put that in the middle, and that little vert is going to just stop your overall edge flow. So I like how this is supporting this. Now we need to start working on this panel here, so we could get pretty much a better finished piece. So I'm going to start working on this panel, and probably don't want this. We're going to go ahead and route this way. So I'm going to start gutting some of these out. And then I'm just going to take these guys here and start rounding them towards the back. So we can throw that way. That's going to quad out over here. Now just take this guy here and throw it this way. And since these are pretty straight edges, we really don't need a lot of curvature here, right? We really don't need a lot of points flowing this way. So this is going to work as far as this reduction that we're doing. So what I'm going to do is delete this guy here. Take my multi-cut and take it this way. And I'll connect it here. Take this guy. I think I could delete it. And then take this guy. And we're going to route this guy back here. Like so. We can take edge slide. And just slide this over. Take this edge. Delete it. And now I can go ahead and slide this guy as well. We are going to need another edge here for this corner. So what I can do is just give this some room here and then space this out as well. So a lot of times when hard surface modeling is figuring out where those edges that are pretty much non-negotiable, and usually these corners is you're going to need an edge to support that crease right there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. The other thing that I'm not going to do is worry about this flowing all the way through. So sometimes I like to focus just on one area of a vehicle, just really a model, kind of perfect that, and then instead of just me throwing a bunch of random edge loops, I'd rather just control kind of an area, work on it, and then kind of continue that loop later on. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this edge here, and then from this point I could just edge slide here and just space these guys out. So what I can do at this point is take this edge, delete it, and then we can go ahead and match this guy up. So I can enable target weld here and just slide this guy over. And this is what I call feathering. Anytime that you pretty much make a connection like that where you weld something or you vert snapping, you want to make sure that line flows just in a nice smooth fashion. And just with edge slide there, I'm just feathering those out. I would probably try to respect this spacing a little bit better. So whether you start with a more dense cylinder, but this right here, you're not going to get a perfect result because you're vert spacing. This is a panel line here as well. So I'm going to take this edge and delete it because I'm going to just bevel this and get that width all at one time. I'll go ahead and target weld this up here. And then just with edge slide, I can go ahead and go in here. Probably take this guy as well. Just delete it for the time being. Like I said earlier, I do like to pretty much delete all my holding edges if I got to do major modeling work. In areas like this where this is going to flow to this, I really just like to look at my shape and figure out, do I need all these edges? And this one looks like it's not doing that much shaping, right? When you go into sub D mode, you will get some curvature. So we could probably delete this edge here, and it's not going to cause a difference. This is a relatively flat shape here. So I'm going to delete that edge. And now I could probably have this guy flow here. So I'll take my multi-cut, go here and I want to flow with this corner here. I'm going to take this guy all the way through. And I think I can take this here, delete that. And actually just extend it this way. And then we could just do something like this. I'll probably go in here and delete these. I'll probably just reintroduce them once I'm done working with the body. You might need them at some point to hold those edges, but you don't want all these edges flowing into a cylindrical shape. That's just going to cause pinching. It's not going to look that good. So what I'm going to do here as well is probably take this guy out. So this is a relatively flat area. Probably don't need it. And then I'll go ahead and take this loop here, this holding edge pretty much, and take it out as well. So really just simplifying this shape as much as humanly possible while cleaning up my edge flow. So I'm not really looking at reference to do this, as I'm just pretty much helping him fix. I'm just pretty much going with the edge flow and the panel lines that he established with the model. So we have this big span here, so we could probably flow some of this over here. So I'll go ahead and just take and create this cut like so. And then I'll connect this guy here. And we should start a quad out. If I delete this. And delete this right here. I could just take this here. And edge slide. Just to make some space for the last loop that we're going to need. And I could just take this, cut this way, and then we can cut this way, and we'll be all quadded. Now we do have obviously the issue with the spacing. I'm going to go ahead and fix this because this is pretty important as far as the spacing goes. And I'll go ahead and drop a loop here in the middle, connect this, and then just slide it over. So what you could do with something like this, you get the count of these faces. I'm going to go to display, heads up display, enable poly count, select this range just to get a rough idea. This is 44 faces, but it is selecting the ones behind it since it is instance. So it's going to be half of that, which is about 22. So what I'm going to do is create a cylinder here on the side. And then flip it over, scale it, put it here in the middle. What we could do is just vert snap to the middle of that wheel. Bring it down a little bit, and then we can push it in like so. So this is going to give us a good idea of even vert spacing. Obviously, by default, these things come in at 20, I believe. Right? And obviously, we had 22, and that wasn't even the whole thing. So we're probably going to have to dense this up a little bit. So let's try something like 32. So what I'm going to do with this cylinder, just make sure that it's relatively flat with this, give or take. And then now what we could do is actually start vert snapping here to get the right spacing. So I'll take both of these pieces. I'll do Shift I. So what I'll do is I'll take my little template here, and the piece that I'm working on, I'll hit Shift I. What I also want to do is move the pivot here, and then just scale this down a little bit to roughly get the right shape of this. And this is snap where the middle of that wheel is, so this should be in pretty much give or take the right position. So now what I can do is start taking these verts. Anytime that you're pushing off the silhouette, make sure that you have a vert snap disabled. And now you see that cylinder is making our life a lot easier. In areas like this, you might think that, well, what's going on? I don't have one to connect to. What you can do with areas like this is actually just slide this in the middle and just create a little bit of an offset, right? And this is going to continue to smooth out fine. All right, so what we'll go ahead and do is just slide that over like this, slide these guys as well, snap that there, snap that there, and then what we could probably do here is just add a loop in the middle here, add a loop here as well. And then we could repeat the process. And now look how much better that looks. So I'm not going to repeat it on this side. You kind of get the point of what I'm trying to do, give or take. And now I could just go in here and feather these out a little bit. All right, so I think this looks a little bit better. What I'll do here as well is just isolate this. And typically areas like this, I like to get rid of pretty much until the end. So what I'll do is holding down tab, I could just paint this here, paint this here as well, hit delete. And when I'm modeling a car automatically, I never have a bottom here till the very end. That's because it's not really going to be part of the body anyway, just this undercarriage part. So usually when you're modeling, you kind of want to have a shell. It makes life easier. So what I'll do here is come in, select this, and then pretty much just double click, select my whole mesh, and just deselect everything but those very bottom faces. I'm gonna have to go in here and just clean this up manually. Hold down tab, I could just add in my selection here. I could add these guys here as well, hit delete. Now we kind of have this nice shell. I could double click, delete this. I could delete these as well. So let's bring everything back here. So what I'll do here is I'll work on this section, and I'm going to take this, cut this way, and then I can just cut here. And end that there. And then we can simply take this and delete this edge for the time being. And we can take all these guys and just delete them. So let's go ahead and just delete this edge here. So when I model a vehicle, I like to spend a lot of time pretty much at this resolution, just making sure that everything's spaced out properly, and before adding the holding edges. And it looks like these faces are just flipped. So I'll just take this edge, loop, and delete it. And then I'll go here, just select these, mesh display, and reverse. And probably be better off just deleting these. I'll go ahead and add a loop here. Looks like we have a hang invert. We could just take care of that. And then just select these border edges and run a bridge and close this up. I'll add a extra division. And then what I can do is just select it, push out just to break up that flatness, and then merge that vert and merge this guy as well. All right, so this is looking quite a bit cleaner. Let's just go ahead and introduce those panel lines. At this point, I would go ahead and clean up the bottom of this, but I think I've done enough. So once I was happy as far as the front, back, everything with this resolution and you know, my topology flowing like it should be, I would start introducing those panel lines again. So we could probably do here is just drop another loop and just connect it to this or merge it and then just slide all the other ones. So do something like this. Take this guy. And now we're just gonna make a little bit of room because we need an extra edge coming down. Sometimes it's just better to just select edges as well to be able to slide. But the slide edge tool does make things a lot easier, especially once you have your silhouette already established. So this is going to go down like this. Then we'll need an edge this way. And we just kind of reorganize this quite a bit. And then now we just drop this here and we have an edge to connect to. So now that all these are routed properly, I could just go ahead and select all these here and delete them. And I'll still quad, and now I have this extra vert to actually snap to as well. So that's kind of a nice thing about having that template there. And anytime that you do, you know, this type of routing with just sliding all these edges, you want to definitely taper these off a little bit. And then here we could just delete this edge. So I'll go ahead and just continue this guy. Leave it there for the time being. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all these loops here. And obviously, if you know you had a trunk, you could you know, select them all at one time. Whatever panel lines, whether it's a door, I would just do it all in one swoop. You can go in here and just bevel these, give it a slight bevel. I'm gonna go in here and just delete these faces, and I would do this towards the end, obviously, of my modeling workflow. You have an option here. You can just extrude this down, right, and kind of create this little ridge. And I've done that at times before, where you just do that, give or take, and then you could add a couple divisions, and you're pretty much kind of faking that recessed area. For this, I think I'm just going to delete it, and just assuming that you do need that separation. And then what I would do is also break this up here, so you can have a clean corner. The multi-cut, I would just go in here and just do that. So now we have the small face, which we could pretty much delete. And what I'm going to do here is just hide this headlight. Just take that extruded portion out for the time being. Just kind of clean this up. So I'll delete that, turn my wireframe back on, and then we could just take all these verts here and merge them down, and then delete these hanging verts here. So we're just nice and clean. It looks like I deleted that face on accident, so I'll just bridge it back up. I'll do the same thing here. The bevels don't give you a super clean finish, so some of these corners you do have to pretty much manually take care of. So make sure that, you know, that piece is select or all the way torn off. So now if I double click on this hood, it should be a completely different piece than the rest of the body. Separate this, and keep in mind this should be done pretty much at the very end of the modeling process, where you're pretty much separating these faces, because if you're still modeling, what tends to happen is, you know, you'll still be shifting faces like this, Then when you go to 3 mode and subdivide, things are not going to match up as good as when everything was one piece, right? So save this part for the very end of your modeling workflow. I could center the pivot here, and then I'll run an extrude. I'll drop the thickness down. And I'm going to break up this quarter panel as well. So I'll take this here. Bevel it like so. And then I'll take this piece here, bevel it. And obviously, I'm just doing this just to have different pieces at this moment. Just to have that clean gap. So that's going to be separated. And then I need to run that here. It's okay, man. So I'm going to delete that, target weld this. And I'm just going to take this. This does have this other panel line here, so I'll break this up further. So I'll take this, bevel it, small bevel. Take the faces, delete that as well. Then just go in here, merge these down. Go ahead and separate this. Extrude inward. Just want to go ahead and match the thickness of that, give or take. So now you have those 2 panels. Obviously, we have to flip the normals. And you would go in here and start dropping some holding edges. And I would do the same thing with this panel here. Something like this. Obviously, I have to clean this up quite a bit. So now if we take these guys and hit 3, our result don't look too bad. We could probably go in here and drop a holding edge. This is going to get mirrored, so we can go in here and delete this. And now we could just start taking our pieces and marrying them over. Make sure that merge threshold is nice and low. I'm just hitting G to repeat that. And if we wanted this to match, we would need kind of these matching edge loops here to, crease up these corners evenly, give or take. So now if we hit 3 on that, you should see that kind of matches up a lot better. And now we could just remirror this guy. So here's our 2 vehicles. Let's go ahead and close this out here just to get a little bit more visual real estate. So there's our old vehicle with that edge flow just kind of high. Decided to fix some of the areas. By no means this is perfect nor finished, but this should give you a better idea. So any of you guys that are struggling with your vehicle modeling, this is how I would approach the beginning stages and all the way to the final stages of adding just kind of those nice panel details and breaking the car up at the very end. Hope you guys found this information valuable. As always, let me know how I did in the comment section down below. Until we meet again, folks, I will catch you next time.